Thank you for attending. This is the very first Charter Review Committee meeting for 2021. I would like to especially thank the committee meeting members sitting at the table for volunteering to serve on this very important committee, as well as the alternate members. In accordance with Charter Section 1002, the Charter Review Committee is responsible for reviewing the charter in full and submitting its recommendation to the County Council. The County Council will then hold work sessions and a public hearing on any proposed recommendations. It may decide to take action on the proposed recommendations, make further changes, or do nothing. If Council moves forward with any recommendations, it will approve them by resolution, which will then be forwarded to the County Attorney to certify to the Election Board, which would then go on the ballot for the voters to decide. The meeting tonight is more of an orientation meeting for the committee members. We'll start by giving a brief introduction. Mr. Wilbur, our county attorney, will then go over the roles of the executive and legislative branches. The committee will then discuss the selection of a chairperson and vice chairperson. Mr. Wilbur will administer the Charter Review Commission pledge. There will be discussion on absenteeism policy, review of the Open Meetings Act, and then we'll talk about future meeting dates and times. So we'll begin with the introductions. If you can state your name and then share a little bit about your background. I'll start first and then we'll just go around the table. So my name is Laura Hurley. I started working in the council office in 2015. Before that, I was working in the in-house legal department from 2008 to 2015. And then prior to that, I worked for the county attorney, who was Ed Baker at that time, from 1999 to 2008.
Hi, I'm Michelle Chesnick. I live in the eastern part of Wicomico County. We moved to Wicomico in the 80s. We have been raising poultry since that time. Currently, my husband and I both raise poultry full-time. I stay very active in agriculture, both on poultry and grain. Member of the DCA board. I chair and have chaired for the past several years the Maryland Agricultural Commission. I also serve on the NRCS State Technical Committee under Dr. Taryn Hilsman.
I'm Phil Tillman. I'm a come here. I've been here since 1964. And my wife and I live in Centennial Village, which is in the west side of the county, about 6 miles out. I had the pleasure of serving on the county council for 16 years, and I am now retired from my heating oil business, and I'm looking forward to this committee, and thank everybody else for being willing to do it too.
Hi, I'm Sharon Morris, and I am retired from Wicomico County, 30 years. I currently am employed at First Shore Federal. I sit on several community boards throughout the county, and I'm happy to sit on this side of the table for the Charter Review.
My name's Tony, a retired educator. I was a principal at Wahine Parkside, Open Parkside, a long time ago. Been a county resident all my life, except when I was in the service and in college. I'm a retired Army reservist, served 32 years in the military. I also served on the county council. I was president of the county council for 4 years, chose not to run for a second term. And I'm looking forward to doing good work here. Thank you.
I'm David Plotz. I am the controller at the Community Foundation, and I'm also the chairman of the City of Salisbury's Parks and Recreation Committee.
Hi, I'm Blair Todd. Been a lifetime resident of Wicomico County. Last 22 years I've been employed at the Board of Education, Wicomico County, and I've had the pleasure of working in both the construction and planning department as well as the maintenance department as a construction manager and a project manager. And I too am thankful for being a part of this committee. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Catherine Jones. I'm the Executive Director for Bay Area Center for Independent Living. We're a large nonprofit in Salisbury. I'm also an instructor at Salisbury University in their history department. I started in Wicomico County at Pinehurst Elementary School, graduated from James M. Bennett, graduated twice from Salisbury University. I have 4 children. All 4 children have attended the public schools in Wicomico County. I serve on the City of Salisbury's Disability Advisory Council. I serve our governor on the State Rehabilitation Council, and I also serve on the Executive Committee of the Greater Salisbury Committee.
Good evening, I'm Paul Wilbur, I'm the county attorney. I've been a member of a law firm in Salisbury for the last 41 years, and I'm here to just assist any way I can with the group's deliberations.
Good evening, I'm Wayne Strasberg. I retired from Wicomico County in June of 2020. I was the Director of Administration from February 2012 until my retirement in June. And I too appreciate the opportunity to be able to serve on this very important committee.
Hey everyone, I'm Mike Dunn. I'm the President and CEO of the Greater Salisbury Committee. Also honored to be on this committee with all these people. See a lot of familiar faces. As I was telling Joe Holloway on the way in here, I grew up about 200 yards that way. Hit a home run down the left field line, which I could never do at Y-High, and it would have landed in my backyard. Had to hit it pretty hard, however. So I'm a Y-High guy. I'm former president of the Salisbury City Council, engaged in a lot of and involved in a lot of community activities, serve honorably on the Coastal Hospice Board of Directors with my friend Tony Sarbanes, and it's a pleasure to be here and see what kind of good work we can do. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dallas Baker. I'm a civil engineer here in Salisbury. I currently work for State Highway Administration. I'm the former Director of Public Works for the county, for Wicomico County. I've also worked with Salisbury Public Works and several other local civil engineering firms here on Delmarva.
Hi, I'm Doug Gosnell, born and raised in Sharptown, retired from DuPont after 38 years, and I've been president of the Commission of Sharptown since 1998. Looking forward to working with everybody.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to see a lot of faces that I do know from years ago. My name is Julie Bellamy, and I have 17 years of work in Virginia, Delaware, and Maryland County and local government. I'm born here, but I'm gonna come back here too. So I guess that counts. It's 2 boxes checked off. But I do appreciate the opportunity. Most of my background is in economic development, and I like the mix when you volunteer for something you don't know what's going to happen. But I feel privileged to be with this group. Thank you.
Hi, Bob Benson. I'm an attorney here in Salisbury with the law firm of Laws, Inslee & Benson. Among my clients, I represent the town of Delmar and the town of Mardella Springs, so I have some familiarity with at least municipal charters. Married, raised 2 kids in Wicomico County, and live in the metropolis of Siloam. So.
Yes, I'm Matt Tillman. I'm a come here, but I came here when I was a year old, so I really consider myself a native. Went through the local school system, also graduated from James M. Bennett. Have retired about 9 years ago after 40 years in the independent insurance agency business. Most was here in Salisbury. I did a 4-year stint in college out of the area, and I did a 7 or 8 year stint in Pennsylvania with a large insurance agency. And I'm married. We have 2 children and 4 grandchildren.
Hello, I'm Sonia Whited. I am a come here, came in 2005. I work at Purdue. as a senior director in the Innovation Center. Most recently, my involvement with the county has been as co-chair of the Wicomico County City of Salisbury Complete Count Committee for the census. So I was very involved in that, involved in the community a lot as well, including board member for United Way, Lower Eastern Shore, and the Salisbury University Foundation as well. And honored to be here.
All right, thank you. I do recognize a couple of alternate members in the audience, so if you don't mind standing and introducing yourselves as well, we could start with Mr. Pollitt here.
Good evening, everyone. I used to be Rick Pollitt. I had the honor of being Wicomico County's first county executive, served for 2 terms, and then folks found out I was a Democrat, and I was invited to seek my employment elsewhere. But it was a true honor to be the first. I thought we did a lot of work. 6 of our 8 years were taken over by the Great Recession, and whereas a lot since then has been building progress for the county, we had to decide what we could do without for most of my term. And the community came together, and it was a real honor to lead at that time. Really appreciate being invited to be an alternate for this exercise. I'm looking forward to it, whatever I can do in way of perspective or experience. I'm very happy to share. I am a 9th generation resident of Allen. Been president of my Lions Club 5 times, and I'm president of our church council this year, so still keeping busy. Thank you.
Any other alternate members?
Well, good afternoon. My name is Mark Tyler. I'm an Assistant Attorney General. I'm one of the 2 attorneys stationed at the Wicomico County Department of Social Services. And my family and I are residents of the Tony Tank neighborhood. And it's a pleasure to be here to be a part of this process. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carol Zimmerman. I'm the Director of Aging and Dementia Services at MAC Inc. I'm definitely a come here, but I've gotten to know a lot about this community over the last 5 years and to love it. We live in Canal Woods too, and I look forward to one of you maybe leaving so I can be on the board as well.
Good evening. I guess I'm the last. My name is David Mitchell. My wife and I moved here in 2006. I'm retired as a circuit court judge in Baltimore and on the Eastern Shore. I had the privilege of being designated to sit on the 9 counties of the shore and did so in each county and all the district courts and circuit courts for a number of years. I'll say it that way. I also had the pleasure of interpreting some of the provisions of the county charter and my role as a judge. I also am the retired executive director, I guess you'd call it the CEO of an organization in Reno, Nevada, the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges, and I served as the dean of the National College of Juvenile and Family Court Judges. Both of those institutions are based at the University of Nevada. The University of Nevada at Reno is the University of Nevada. The University of Nevada, Las Vegas, is the pretender. The University of Nevada is the land-grant college in Reno, Nevada. My wife and I have 3 children, 5 grandchildren. We live in Hebron. We enjoy our experience here, and it's nice to see many faces that I have known. I've been active in the community here on the civic level and the religious level for a number of years, and hope to be able to be a participant, an active participant in this group's meetings. Thank you for having me and inviting me to participate.
We have one more.
Good evening. My name is Chris Eccleston. I'm a local business owner. I'm a military veteran. I'm a product of the county school system, born and raised, and I was gone for about 10 years, and I came back right at the height of the Great Recession. And so it's been a pleasure. I have 2 children. We live in Tony Tank, and I'm honored to be an alternate. Thank you, and looking forward to learning about the county.
I'd also like to recognize Councilman Joe Holloway, who is here tonight, and Councilman John Cannon. Next on the agenda, we have the roles of the executive branch and the legislative branch, and Mr. Wilbur, our county attorney, is going to go over that with everyone.
I can see there's a wealth of governmental experience on this committee. I think that's a great thing. This is just going to be a brief overview. In Maryland, I believe there's 11 counties that have charters. 9 of those have an executive and council form of government like Wicomico. 2 of those have just a council form of government. I think in the materials, you'll see many charters. You can always Google charters and take a look at how other counties are operating and addressing the issues that I think you'll be looking at. Very basically, the legislative branch, the county council, their job, as their title states, is to legislate. And that means they will pass resolutions, they will pass legislative bills, one of the most important ones being to adopt the annual budget every year. They also adopt a capital improvement program every year, which controls the capital expenditures of the county during that year and for years to come. The council confirms appointments that are offered by the county executive. The county council adopts a personnel manual by law. So that's a flavor of what the county council does as a legislative branch. The executive branch is always considered to be the administrative branch of the government. It'll prepare a budget and present it to the county council. That's a big function and an important function of the executive. Once the county council passes a budget, then the executive administers that budget. The executive branch is in charge of the various departments. They oversee the activities of the various departments. They also oversee the personnel of the departments. One of the significant functions is to direct the purchasing of the county. The county executive is assisted by a director of administration, which is a position that Wayne Strasburg filled for several years, and when appropriate, an assistant director of administration. So that's your basic difference. The primary function of the legislature is to legislate. Primary function of the executive is to administer the budget, if you will. You'll go into a lot more detail as we go through this process.
Okay, so next we have the presentation of the material, the resource material. Everyone picked up, I believe, a nice red binder from the council office this week. I'm just going to briefly touch on what's inside of this. We're not going to go into any detail, but if you have questions, feel free to contact me and I'll be glad to help you. So under the first tab, you're going to see a copy of the existing county charter. So this is what you're going to be reviewing, section by section. After that, you're going to have ballot samples, and in here you'll see ballot questions that were presented to the voters in 2012, 2016, and 2018. This is put in here primarily so you can see how the questions are formatted. Next, you'll see the resolutions that the county council adopted. These are from 2012, 16, and 18 as well. And then you'll have the 2018 minutes, which will show you the discussion on how they approved what they approved by that resolution. And then you have the 2016 council minutes, 2012 council minutes, and then you have the Charter Review Committee minutes from the last Charter Review Committee, which was back in 2011 and 2012. You were also given a flash drive that has all the charters from the executive forms of government. So again, if you have any follow-up questions on any of that information, feel free to reach out to me. There's also, before I forget, a list of sections, charter sections, that the county council has put together for you to consider as you go through your review of the charter. That's in your binders as well. And Mr. Taylor has put together some memos regarding some of those questions that were posed for your consideration. That's also in the binder for you. So, Mr. Wilbur, if you want to go over the pledge.
Sure. So we have prepared a pledge. This is sort of an initial statement, you might say, that you are organizing as a charter review committee and you understand your function. I'm going to just read it, and then there's a signature line for everyone. We'll pass it around the tables, and you can sign on. 2021 Wicomico County Charter Review Committee Pledge. We believe that being selected to serve on the Charter Review Committee, tasked to review the provisions of the charter for Wicomico County, is both a civic duty and an honor. We believe that placing this trust obligates us to act in the best interest of all the citizens of Wicomico County. We therefore willingly pledge to set aside our personal, professional, business, and political interests to the higher criterion of what would be best for Wicomico County and its people. To help achieve this, we will engage the public about their concerns as citizens. The final charter revisions that will be placed before the Wicomico County Council will be the result of our best efforts to integrate and reach consensus on all of the viewpoints brought forward. We will seek to reach all voters so they will be able to make a fully informed decision on the proposed charter amendments. Signed this 10th day of May, March 2021, and there is a signature line for everybody.
And I'll make one comment on this. It does mention that you'll engage the public about the concerns of the citizens. A thought on that would be to allow public comments at the Charter Review Committee meetings. I mean, that's something that you guys can discuss, but that would be one way to reach the citizens. So next is discussion on the absenteeism policy. So my understanding back in 2011 with the last Charter Review Commission, there were concerns about the members coming on a regular basis. In reviewing the minutes, it was discovered that we had one member who attended only 2 meetings. So you may want to think about having an absenteeism policy, such as if you miss 3 consecutive meetings, then you would want to reach out to one of the alternate members. So I don't know if that's something you guys want to discuss tonight, or if you want to discuss that at a future meeting. I can take some feedback. Anyone want to start this conversation?
Some organizations, Phil Tillman, some organizations I'm a member of, if you miss 3 consecutive meetings, then you're replaced. And perhaps that's what, I don't know whether that's an arbitrary number, but we certainly have some qualified people here as alternates. And I think perhaps if you're not going to attend, and there might be very good reasons for that, but if there are, then a qualified person should take your place. Just my thought.
The one question I have is how many people sitting here work every day? So we got a pretty good number. Some of us are retired, so our schedules might be a little more flexible, but that doesn't mean that, we're restricted too. For those who are working, I guess your best time to meet is in the evening. Maybe I shouldn't assume that, but that might be the best time, and whether that's going to be a hindrance for others. So I think that's something to look at. Or those who are working, can you get away from work without a problem?
I would also suggest we establish the schedule before figuring out the absentee policy. If we're meeting, for example, every day and somebody misses 3 consecutive, it's less detrimental than if we are meeting once a month and then somebody misses. So I would just suggest we develop the schedule first and then establish what the absentee policy is.
I agree with Dallas on that.
Yeah. So good idea.
if you replace someone on here, who makes the decision as to who gets replaced? How that replacement does? I mean, we didn't appoint, the committee didn't appoint themselves, so does the committee decide who the replacement is, or does the county council decide that?
That's a decision for you guys to make. I mean, the county council's role was to make the appointments to the charter review committee, and they have done that. Is there any more discussion on that, or we can move on to the next item, and then we can come back to it after we talk about the future meeting dates and times?
Yes.
Mr. Wilbur?
Right, the next item says review of Open Meetings Act. Quite simply, you're doing the public's business here, so state law requires that your meetings, if there's a quorum present, be open to the public so that they can come in and observe your activities. There are exceptions to the Open Meetings Act which allow you to meet in closed session, but for this particular committee, I think that would be very unusual. So you should just plan that all of your meetings would be open to the public.
All right, so next, we could talk about future meeting dates and times. This room is available in March, and I'm going to give you some dates for the next meeting. All right, so
Can you, what are the timeframes for this committee overall?
it's, again, and that's up to the committee itself.
Is there an end date?
Well, the idea was that the committee would meet for 12 to 14 months. So I can say that the Civic Center is only looking to make reservations 30 days out. And I got some meeting dates for the evening time slots.
Well, it just seems to me that if the number of times we're going to meet has something to do with whether we're going to meet for 12 months, 6 months, 14 months. But it's expected to last 12 to 14 months.
It is expected to last 12 to 14 months, and the prior committee, they met twice a month for most months. I think during the holidays, they did drop down to once a month, but then they picked it right back up again. So you guys could try that format if you want, see how that works, and then if you need to meet more than that, you can certainly do that.
How often did how many months did the last group go?
It was at least,
12 months.
Yeah.
It was October to, it's right here, to June, it looks like. October 24th, 2011 through June 12th, 2012.
There you go.
October to June.
Close.
We have a camera here. Who's the camera from?
This is PAC 14.
So are these live or are these just taped?
They're just being recorded.
So do we
They're
have
not
the
live.
ability to do Zoom? If somebody was sick and couldn't be here, would they be able to participate through Zoom or something else?
Should be able to.
I have Zoom as long as I can work with the IT people for the Civic Center, if this is where you're going to want to meet.
I'm not necessarily advocating it because I'm not real thrilled about it, but I mean, we're still in COVID, people could get sick, and if we're dealing with absenteeism, then somebody might want to participate by electronic means.
You could do Zoom or you could do conference call, one or the other, but still it would give somebody the ability, if they are sick or it's a COVID situation, that they could still participate in this. Also, I think in light of, the governor is loosening things up right now in the state, but in light of what could come over the next 6 months or whatever, including what could happen during the Easter holiday, you may have a resurgence, you don't know, and I think we need to have a contingency built in if we cannot meet in person. I know the Maryland Ag Commission, we've been running that by teleconference now since last March. Delmarva Chicken Association, we've had one live meeting since last February, and generally the meetings are either done on Zoom or conference for many organizations at this time. So just something to think about.
Ms. Hurley, is that something that you can give us some details about what would be available?
Yes.
Or do we know, I mean, at this point, you're not sure what's available, if I understand correctly?
Right. I have to contact Civic Center staff here to just confirm that we have that ability.
Laura, were the last meetings done at the Civic Center or elsewhere?
Council
Is this-
chambers.
Okay, so are county chambers an option?
It's pretty tight.
The reason why we're meeting here is because of the social distancing,
That's pretty tight.
in order to make sure that we all stay 6 feet apart.
Okay.
So
Laura?
if they release those restrictions, then we can certainly go to council chambers, but until then, I think it's best to
Yeah,
find some other
just like
location.
MDA's doing, yeah.
For the group's benefit, Laura, having been on the last charter review committee, I think meeting every 2 weeks is a good idea. Meeting once a month, you find that there's too much of a gap, and you've got to go back and you've got to cover again discussions that you had in the previous meeting. So I would suggest that it would be helpful moving the process along to meet twice a month.
Yeah, I agree with Wayne. And, Wednesdays at 6 o'clock. I mean, right now it seems to, we're all here for that. I mean, we can adjust it as needed if things go sideways, but every 2 weeks, Wednesdays at 6 PM, tentatively here until we find out we can't, and then we can.
I can only guarantee it through the end of April.
I'd like to suggest that we also put a time limit, because I've been in too many meetings where it just goes on ad infinitum, and before you know it, you don't even know what you're thinking about or talking about. So let's say it's 2 hours, I don't know.
That's a good
At the
idea.
end of 2 hours, you could be right in the middle of a sentence, you get up and leave.
And if the committee was willing to relook at the evening, because some of us need to work 2 jobs, and Monday and Wednesdays I do teach at the university, and I would hate to step aside already. I'm very motivated to be a part of this committee, or even alternate nights, so it doesn't impede on anyone else who has nighttime obligations or works more than one job.
Mr. Strasburg, when I haven't read the minutes, but I glanced at them, I noticed that there was a difference with regard to absenteeism between excused absences and unexcused absences. Can you explain what the committee did with regard to that?
I'm fuzzy on that. I've got to go back and revisit that for you, but, certainly, we don't want to penalize someone who's ill or who has a family issue, someone who goes on vacation. So we may want to consider an excused absence as opposed to an unexcused absence. Absences were an issue with that particular committee, and it did cause problems with continuity of discussions and cohesion, if you will. So to the extent that we can minimize absences, I think that's a good idea.
Do we want to do another doodle poll to figure out what day and times work best for people? Say, and send that out and then see what the results are?
6 o'clock Wednesday.
Well, it sounds like for folks that have evening responsibilities.
Thursday work for everybody then?
Thursday would work for me, Tuesday
Yeah.
or Thursday.
Thursday's fine.
Thursday's fine for me, too.
Thursday works. Thursday's fine.
Okay, so it sounds like everyone agrees to Thursday.
And thank you.
Anyone oppose that?
I might just ask, is there any thought? I know it's 6 to 8, and I'm just asking, 4 to 6, 5 to 7, are there those of us who work? Is that an option? I'll just look around the room as a hands up if it's an option for those who work.
5 to 7.
I find
5 to 7.
5 to 7.
5 to 7.
Sort of to Tony's point, the 2 hour limit, 7 o'clock's easier at 2 hours than 8, and if we can start it sooner on some, and again, I don't think we need to set everything in stone right at this moment in time. But if there's some flexibility on, 4 o'clock sometimes, 5 o'clock or 6, but I just thought I'd throw that out and see if there was a potential to begin a little bit earlier when we're a little bit fresher. That's all.
I can't do 4. I'm still being paid at 4.
Julie,
Other than that, I'm fine.
Julie, can you speak? I'm sorry, what was
I
that?
said I am fine. I can't attend at a 4 o'clock
Okay.
meeting any day of the week.
Okay, thank you. So 5 is a possibility, looking around the room, looking for heads to nod, okay?
I'm good.
So 5 o'clock would be fine for for this month in April. The concern is beyond that. I know that this room is being taken by circuit court for the juries.
Jury selection, yeah.
So, and it was going to be really tight for them to have to reset up this meeting for this committee after the jury selection. So we would want to go back to the 6 o'clock once we get into the month of May, if that's a possibility.
Are there other rooms we could use? I mean,
No, because the state is doing their vaccination clinics,
oh, yeah.
so they're using the entire Civic Center. This is the only room that's left.
Laura, there's a very nice jury room in the county office building. I don't know if it's big, and it looks like it'd be big enough for us to all fit in there. But I'm thinking, you know the room I'm talking about?
I don't.
It's
no.
downstairs in the, I don't know, downstairs where the county office building is.
In the courthouse?
Yeah, in the courthouse. It's a new room. I don't know, you might be familiar with it. It's it's a jury room, but it's huge. And I think we could fit in here in this configuration. I don't know about mics and all that, because I'm having trouble hearing half the people in here.
Do you think you could talk to the administrative judge and see if that would work?
Well, I don't
Might
know.
have it in with him.
We'll get Judge Mitchell to talk to him.
You might have a better end than he does, actually.
United Way also has a large meeting room
Yeah,
that
it
might
does.
work.
Who's that, Sharon?
The United Way.
United Way.
Oh,
And the Community Foundation.
Community Foundation?
Yeah. I talked to Pat about that. That room, she didn't feel that we could socially distance in
Yeah,
that
I
room.
don't think we could in there.
Yeah.
With regard to the room that you're speaking about, Tony, the concern there would be security. If we're holding those meetings in the evening,
Yeah,
court's not in session, they won't have security there.
we're right downtown. Just a thought.
We could ask Melissa.
okay.
I think
So-
it would be beneficial if we had a consistent place and time, if we could, and to be aware that it should be open to everyone. Every meeting should be open to the public, right?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Is there a possible connection with SU or Warwick that they might have a room?
I would have to reach out to them. I'm not sure.
That's a
I could
good
check.
idea, too.
All right, so do we want to try to meet here for the next meeting, and then I can give you an update on a new location at the next meeting? So are we looking at a Thursday evening, let's say the 25th at 5 o'clock? Is that good
Sounds
for
good.
everyone?
What day?
25th of March at 5.
So
25th.
next we can go back to the absenteeism policy. Is that something that you guys would consider at this point, or is that something you want to talk about the next meeting?
Personally, Laura, I think we should sit down and think about it and discuss it at the next meeting, decide how we're going to do it. You know, I look at it and say we were appointed by council. If we're going to be unappointed, should that not be council?
Oh, yeah, no, I don't think.
I'm just asking. You know,
I'll speak up on that. I think that we are, as of signing that pledge, we are a committee. And the county council, as Ms. Hurley just said, they have done their job and they have appointed folks. And we have alternates out there. And I think we, as a committee, can figure out how it is we're going to land on an alternate. But I'm hesitant to throw it back into the county council simply because they've done their job and appointments get confusing enough as it is, and we've got alternates sitting out there. So I think I would just like this body to make that decision. I don't know how we would make the decision, but I would be.
That's the good question, yes.
I'd be more comfortable keeping it within this body. That's certainly allowable, it would seem to me.
I'll just ask this, was there any people in the last committee that had to be replaced due to absenteeism?
I had to be replaced because I went to work for the county.
Okay.
Okay, Wayne.
Do you know what process then was implemented?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I didn't follow it after that.
Part of the reason there might be alternates is because they didn't have a process. People didn't show up, and the committee, I'm sure it's in the minutes somewhere.
You know, if it becomes a burden for somebody, they ought to just write a letter and say, due to unusual circumstances, I have to drop off. Thank you.
I agree.
And be pretty straightforward about it.
Any more discussion on the absenteeism policy?
Well, I mean, personally, I think we need to figure out whether or not somebody can participate through electronic means before we make the final decision about the absenteeism. I think we need to determine whether or not somebody can participate electronically, or whether we even want to allow participation by electronics if that's possible, before we make a determination about absenteeism.
Okay, I'll have that information.
I guess the question is, does the committee want to allow someone to participate electronically?
And that might be determined also by our location as far whether or not it's got the capability of supporting Zoom or whatever.
I'd be comfortable to answer that question. I'd be comfortable allowing participation via a conference call or a Zoom, provided it wasn't every single time.
So what, Mike, I had trouble.
Provided it wasn't every single
Yeah.
time. So if there's a reason for whatever, you're sick, you have a cold, you have something, one time, maybe two times, but not as the default position of how it is you're going to participate on the committee.
Okay, so there's one more thing that I wanted to talk to everyone about, and that is the selection of a chair and vice chair. You guys can decide that tonight if you want, or again, if you want to wait till the next meeting, we can do that. But you would need to select a chairperson and a vice chair.
And what are their responsibilities?
Well, the chairperson would conduct the meetings, and then the vice chair would be his fill-in or her fill-in if needed.
And make sure we get out in 2 hours.
Are there volunteers?
I'm gonna volunteer Phil Tillman if he'll accept it.
No, I won't. I'd like to, if nominations are in order, nominate Mike Dunn to be the chair.
Yeah, I'd support that. And
I'll
Phil, could
support
I
that.
add something? Looking across the table, Doug, why don't you be the vice chair? That gives us a county presence and a Greater Salisbury Committee presence.
And
Now, I might be
visible.
wrong, because if a lady's interested, I'm sorry, maybe I jumped the gun, but, you've been in government a long time, and you understand it. If you'd be willing to do it, you may not want to fool with it.
I really wasn't looking to.
Okay. All right. But
I appreciate that.
I thought about you.
How about Attorney Benson?
Well, I have given this some thought. I apologize, but I made some notes. Everybody in their introduction, for the most part, mentioned it was a privilege to serve on this committee, and it really is. It's particularly a privilege when you look around the room at who else is on this committee. I mean, Mr. Tillman, Mr. Sarbanes. I mean, it's a wealth of experience that's on here with Mr. Strasburg, and it's just a tremendous amount of experience and knowledge that is on this committee. We've been asked to volunteer to be on this committee, and it's going to be potentially for 12 to 14 months, twice a month. And it's a lot of time that people are providing and volunteering. And I assume, and I know for myself, that the idea is that when this charter committee makes recommendations, I want those recommendations taken seriously, not just by the county council, but by the citizens of the county at large. And I think the first process in doing that is deciding who the chairman of the committee is going to be, because for like it or not, the committee chairman is going to be the face of the committee, I think. If we're going to invest as much time as we are, I want to make sure that the committee's recommendations ultimately are well received, not only by the county council, but more importantly by the citizens of the committee. I noted that in the pledge, a word was used that I used or thought about, and that's the word consensus. The word consensus was used. To me, in order for this committee to achieve a good result, as much as possible, we're going to have to do that by consensus. And it seems to me that items that don't receive significant majority support are not things that should be considered to be submitted to the county council. I don't think things that are voted on 8-7 by this committee are items that likely should be sent to the committee, unless they should require a stronger consensus before we do that. With that in mind, as part of my thought process, it seems to me the committee chairman is the first part of that consensus issue. And with all due respect, and I'm not pointing out Mr. Dunn, and I wasn't going to mention his name, but I don't think the chairman should be a person who's already presented the positions on this job. The Greater Salisbury Committee and Mr. Dunn have already gone out and taken positions. I think the chairman needs to be somebody who comes to this committee with an open mind and is willing to sit and listen. And with all due respect, I'm not sure that Mr. Dunn's in that position. He may be, but
Well, I'm definitely going to interrupt at this point, because I'm sitting here with an open mind, and I can very much appreciate what you're saying completely. I respect that completely. But to infer or imply in any way that I am not sitting here with an open mind, I'm not going to say offense to that, but I'm just going to stand up to that statement.
I have no doubt there are many people on this committee that are able to serve as chairperson, but I believe the committee probably should select someone who isn't perceived to have a predisposition. And with all due respect to Mr. Tillman, who's already respectfully declined, and other people who've worked for the county, I'm not sure that that someone who has a direct relationship or has had a direct relationship with county government is the best person to be the chairman in this case. I'm afraid that that person is going to be perceived to represent the existing power structure, and I'm not sure that the citizens in the county are going to view that as an independent person. So I would ask that the committee consider, with regard to consensus, that we select someone who, from the committee that may fit that bill more directly than that.
Are you saying that you'd be willing to serve?
It's not something I want to do, and I'm not asking for it, and I'm not saying that for this reason.
No, I understand that, but would you be willing to serve?
I would, with great reluctance, I would probably do it. I probably would regret it in the long run, but that's not the reason. I seriously thought about this, and it just seems to me that when we get done, we want to make a presentation, and that presentation should be something that the citizens of the county believe has been given the most thought possible, and is not something that was done or decided before the committee even started working. And I'm afraid that there's some basis to believe that the committee, that the members of the citizens might not believe that.
I agree with your comment about the consensus and, being whatever you want to call it, supermajority, 2/3 of what gets put forward. But I would just simply say, as far as a chairman and chairperson and co-chairperson, show of hands who's actually interested in it, because I understand what you're saying, but if the type of person that you're talking about isn't available, we're kind of like, okay, well, I don't want to force this on somebody that doesn't want it. So just, who's actually interested in being chair or vice chair, and just show of hands. Does that work?
It does work.
It does work.
Do you want to first, who is interested in chair?
I'd throw out one thing. The person sitting at this table who's had the most experience in charter, when we went to charter government, is Wayne. He worked in it for 8 years. But that may be an issue in the same way that Mr. Benson has commented for the very same thing, because he was in government. So I think,
And I'm still consulting with the county.
yeah, so
So-
you shouldn't do it then.
I should not do it.
No.
I should
I wonder if somebody walked in here tonight and said, "Well, that's a job I want." You don't have to stand up right away. It's like being in the military,
I would be interested in co-chairing, coming from a nonprofit angle and being a community member and a proud community member, background in education and leadership, and being a female leader in this community, I would be interested in being co-chair.
Being the what?
Co-chair.
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 I nominate Bob Benson again.
I'll second that nomination. I just think it's someone that's not a great part of the county that anybody would perceive as any type of bias against any group or any community, and I think that's what we really need here. Because people will always point fingers and say, oh, it's because of Greater Salisbury, or it'll be this, or it'll be that. So I would nominate Attorney Benson to go ahead.
Or second.
I'll second it.
I had the privilege of working on the census with Sonia Whited, and I don't know if she would be interested or not, but I have seen her work miracles with bringing people together from across the board. Is she shaking her head no?
I didn't shake my head no, but
And I've seen her run meetings and get things done and do it in a way that either everybody walked away not happy or everybody walked away happy. And that's usually the sign of a good leader, when no one's 100% happy.
That's funny. This is a new arena for me, so
Lean up to the mic.
I'm sorry. This is a new arena for me, so I'm not, I would be interested in being maybe vice or something like that, because I don't know this arena. I feel and the engineer in me needs to have a little bit more background in order to say, yes, that's how I feel, anyway. But thank you. Thank you.
All right, if we can go back to the chair, I think, what I heard was Mike Dunn and Bob Benson as nominations for the chair. Were there any other nominations? Okay. So what we'll do is we'll go around the table when I call your name. If you can just say, we'll start with Mike Dunn, since his nomination was made first. If we can go around the room, and then you can just say yes or no. This is for, again, Mike Dunn. Dallas Baker.
Yes.
Julie Bellamy.
No.
Mr. Benson.
No.
Mike Dunn.
I will abstain.
Doug Gosnell.
No.
Catherine Jones.
Yes.
Sharon Morris.
Yes.
David Plotz.
Yes.
Michelle Chesnick.
No.
Tony Sarbanes.
Yes.
Wayne Strasberg.
Yes.
Matt Tillman.
Yes.
Philip Tillman.
Well, I nominated him, but I'm really swayed by what Bob said about this, Mike. Hope you're listening. I'm swayed by the fact that perhaps the perception would be that we're a rubber stamp for the Greater Salisbury Committee as much, and I'm a former member of the Greater Salisbury Committee and have great respect, but I would hate for that to somehow color our decisions and their recommendations to the county council. So I'm going to vote no, even though I nominated you. So
Blair Todd
No.
and Sonia Whited.
Yes, and can I make a comment too? I understand that the chair is the face, but there are 15 of us that were put on this committee, so it's not just purely one person's opinion. So I understand what was stated, and I somewhat agree, I agree with that thought process, but it's not just that one person. We are all gonna be in here for 2 hours for 12 months. So.
And I too want to add, I just have a question about that because I understand the perception, but the county council appointed the people that are here, and 7 of us, I believe, are already in government or retired from government. So the question becomes, if that was the perception, why would the county council have selected all of these people with institutional knowledge of a form of government to serve on this committee? So certainly, if there were 7 people who were retired from county government, somebody would have to be the chair, and that would be that person, or a person who had retired. With respect to what you said, sir, but for some reason, the county council thought it important to have people who had experience in government serve on this committee.
Well, I didn't keep a tally, but I think the vote's already in.
The votes are in. We have 8 yeses, and we have 6 noes with 1 person abstaining.
What did we decide was a consensus? We said 2/3? Did we decide on that? Because you didn't make a point.
No, we haven't gotten there yet.
Okay, so based on that, I would say Mr. Dunn would be the chairperson. Okay, we'll move on to the vice chair. Are there any nominations for vice chair?
Ms. Jones said she would accept the chair, for vice chair. Or is it doctor?
It's doctor, but.
That's what I thought. Dr. Jones.
And then there was a.
Sonia
I believe
Whitehead
the lady
has
down at the end
interest as
also.
well.
I'm sorry, I don't know your name, ma'am.
It's Sonia, but that's okay. No, I'm gonna vote for Dr. Jones. I'm good with that.
I'm sorry, Sonia.
That's okay.
Are there any other nominations for
Well,
vice chair?
we certainly have considered Bob Benson to be the chairman. He didn't get the nod, but I think he should also be considered as either a co-chair or the vice chair.
Mr. Benson, are you willing to accept that?
Yes.
So we have Dr. Jones and Mr. Benson. Any other nominations? Okay. We'll do the same format. We'll start with Dr. Jones.
I'll have to abstain.
Okay. We're going to start with Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Julie Bellamy,
Yes.
Mr. Benson,
No.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Doug Gosnell.
That's it. I'm sorry, excuse me.
That was a no?
No.
No. Catherine Jones, you're going to abstain. Sharon Morris,
Yes.
David Plotz,
Yes.
Michelle Chesnick,
No.
Anthony Sarbanes,
No.
Wayne Strasberg,
No.
Matt Tillman,
Yes.
Philip Tillman,
No.
Mr. Todd, Blair Todd,
No.
and Sonia Whited.
Yes.
Okay, so we do not have a majority for Dr. Jones. We're going to go around the room just to confirm for Sonia Whited.
No, I wasn't on it.
I'm sorry. Mr. Benson.
Right.
Okay, Mr. Baker,
No.
Julie Bellamy,
No.
Mr. Benson,
I guess the standard is we abstain, so.
Mr. Dunn,
No, no.
Mr. Gosdell,
Yes.
Dr. Jones,
No.
Sharon Morris,
Yes.
David Plotz,
Yes.
Michelle Chesnick,
Yes.
Tony Sarbanes,
Yes.
Wayne Strasberg,
Yes.
Matt Tillman,
Yes.
Philip Tillman,
Yes.
Blair Todd,
Yes.
and Sonia Whited.
So I'm sorry, clarification, is it, if I voted yes before, do I have to vote no this, or it's okay to vote yes twice? Because I heard some people that did it twice.
Yeah, I didn't understand that one either.
You did it twice?
Someone, if you voted, there's only one position, right?
Yeah, we're talking about vice chair.
Right, so if someone said yes to Dr. Jones, can I say yes to?
This is your vote for vice chair, so you can vote yes or no for Mr.
Yes, thank you, that's all I wanted to know, thank you.
So that is a majority for Mr. Benson as vice chair. So that's the only thing I have for tonight. Does anyone have any questions for me or Mr. Wilbur?
While we're here, we were just talking about understanding, there was a very good point mentioned about consensus, right? And so if it would be 8 to 7 or something like that, do we want to decide that now? Is it something that's going to be at the next meeting, or we're just going to continue with majority? You just mentioned that before, so I just wanted to know if that's
It's a good agenda item for our first meeting.
okay.
Laura, we mentioned earlier that we want public input.
Yes.
Would it be advantageous to set up a county email address that citizens could send suggestions or questions
Yes,
so
so
that the group could view those?
there is one already on the county's website. It was
Okay.
set up from 2011, and I just had the email address changed so that the questions would come to my email.
Okay,
So that is available to the public for them to submit questions to the Charter Review Committee.
okay, good, thank you.
Laura, can I make a statement?
Sure.
As the newly elected chair of this body. I appreciate the healthy debate. We now have myself and Mr. Benson on the chair and vice chair seats as a result of this healthy debate. And I just want everyone in this room and on this committee, and I will reaffirm what I said earlier. Yes, I take great pride that my daytime job is as the president and CEO of the Greater Salisbury Committee. The Greater Salisbury Committee, since 1967, has been deeply engaged in doing extraordinary things for this community. We literally established Warwick Community College. We literally established the Community Foundation of the Eastern Shore. We established the Office of Wicomico, Salisbury Wicomico Economic Development. We brought Junior Achievement of the Eastern Shore to Delmarva. We recently created the Wicomico County Education Foundation. We're in the process of bringing together a Women's Leadership Council. And while my daytime job and the Greater Salisbury Committee took a position on some of the points made here informing the commission and some of the things that we recommended have been put into place, both GSC and the Chamber, I absolutely guarantee positively that I will be I'm running a meeting, first and foremost. That's the job of a chair. The second job of a chair is to look for consensus among the group. And Sonia, I know we're going to try to define that, but the common sense way that I look at consensus is, are there a whole bunch more heads nodding than a simple majority of heads nodding? And this will be a full buy-in from this committee. My job, as much as anything, is to be quiet and recognize the other people in this room and listen to their thoughts and opinions and guide forward a good process that the citizens of this county can be happy with when we're done. The other thing, and I'm going to comment on something my friend Tony Sarbanes said, I don't want people coming into this room wearing a hat that I live in Salisbury, or I live in Mardello, or I live in Sharptown, or I live in Delmar. When we enter this room as citizens of Wicomico County. It does not matter what your address is. At the end of the day, I'm going to ask everyone to leave your whatever thoughts you might have about life in Willards or life in Hebron or life on Forest Lane in my case, or life in Tony Tank. When we come in here, as our charge says, we're here to try to move things forward for Wicomico County. So anyway, with that, I just thank you for the trust that has been placed in me. I look forward. Again, I'm just going to run a meeting, and with the help of Mr. Benson and the crew, we will set agendas. We will get out of here within 2 hours, I promise that, and I look forward to working with each and every one of you. So thank you very much.
Okay, I thank everyone for coming out tonight, and we'll meet again not this coming Thursday, but in 2 weeks. Thank you.